Hey everyone, Skeeva here from Between Realities to give you my thoughts and my review on the Pimax Crystal. This is the newest virtual reality headset from Pimax. First of all, the Pimax Crystal features a 35 ppd with a combined resolution of 5760 by 2880. It features a Snapdragon XR2, the same chipset that's in familiar headsets like the Quest 2 and the Pico 4. And it offers QLED and mini LED panels for the displays. I'm going to go through some things that I love about this headset and some things you might want to know before you make a purchase. Let's get into it. I'm going to go over a couple of the pros that I really like about the Pimax Crystal. The first one is it has a pretty large field of view. It encompasses a lot of the side of your view and kind of gets rid of that binocular vision that you might have in a headset like the Quest 2. It's really, really clear. The picture in this headset is better than most headsets I think I've ever tried. This has maybe the best picture that I've ever seen up to this point, which is really, really nice. From edge to edge, there's full clarity. You don't get a lot of the barrel warping that you got on previous headsets like the Pimax 8KX. The colors are also very vibrant and the darks are pretty dark, which is interesting because this is not an OLED display like you would think of when you think of like really nice dark darks in a headset, but this did very, very well compared to an OLED display. It has eye tracking, which is a plus for a lot of different reasons. When you put on the headset, it automatically adjusts your IPD. So the lenses will move in and out automatically on a motor. So you don't have to mess with it. With the Quest 2, you have to grab the lenses and bring them in. With some headsets, you slide a little dial to try to get your eyes right in the middle of the lens. This will put them there by itself, which is great for when you're demoing VR too. So if someone comes over, you put the headset on them and you know they're going to have a really good clear picture. Another pro that I'll mention is this headset does not require base stations to work. This is fully inside out tracked and it uses 4 cameras on the headset to track where the controllers are and to track where it is in 3D space. It's a lot less setup time than something like a Valve Index or any other base station tracked headset, and you can put this on and get into it pretty quick. The screens on the Pimax Crystal can also go up to 120 Hertz, which will give you a very butter smooth picture. Everything will look very lifelike if your computer can handle it. To produce that many frames takes quite a video card, especially at the resolution of this headset, but if you can achieve it on your computer, this looks amazing. Another thing on this headset is it has these cool off-the-ear headphones. These headphones do not touch your ears, so the sound is pushed into your ear like a speaker, and you can also hear what's going on around you in the room. I don't have a whole lot of noise happening in my place, so this is fantastic. If I do need to hear the doorbell ring or something, I can, but I'm not going to have a whole lot of issues with other sounds coming through. That being said, if you live in a noisy place and this type of headphone won't work for you, then that's to be considered. But for the most part, I think the audio here is pretty good. There are these buttons on the top of the headset that allow you to adjust the IPD more or less if you feel like you want to tweak it for some reason. The eye tracking and the auto IPD adjustment does a really good job, so you probably won't have to do that, but this is there for you in case you need it. There's also a power button here that you can turn the power of the headset on and off. The cable is also completely removable, so you can plug the cable into this port here on the headset. The facial interface is pretty comfortable. It is that spongy material by default. I'm sure at some point you'll be able to put in maybe a pleather face gasket or something like that, but this feels pretty good. They also did include in the box that I received a second facial interface that kind of covers more of your forehead. I didn't feel I personally needed it. This was really comfortable the way it was. This headset is a little bit heavy. I don't think it's any heavier than the 8KX. This thing is weighted pretty well. For me, I didn't notice a ton of the weight on the front of my face. It felt pretty decent. It has this dial on the back, which you can use to open the headset up and close it up and squeeze it tighter to your head so it doesn't move around and it doesn't slip around. The strap itself kind of bends upward so it doesn't hit your ears, which is a really nice design from headsets that go straight back and will sometimes rub on your ears and annoy them. This is actually a pretty comfy strap. And with the battery being in the back, it does place a little bit more weight on the back of the headset, so it balances it out even more. One of the things in the past with Pimax was you had to install software, and the headset didn't just automatically look fantastic. You had to do a little bit of tweaking here and there. Well, I got to tell you that the Pimax software has come light years from where it was. And for the most part, you can just put this thing on and have a really good experience. You can tweak things, which is great, but you're going to put this on and immediately just have a really clear picture, a very big FOV, and things are going to look absolutely great. Like most headsets, there are some cons. I am going to say the very first con is actually the last pro that I mentioned, which is that it has inside-out tracking. So most people will love inside-out tracking. There's no base stations to install. Me, as an enthusiast, I personally like base stations, and I really like to be able to use different types of controllers that are compatible with Steam VR. So when the faceplate comes out for this that allows base station tracking, I think I would personally rather go that route than having inside-out tracking. There are advantages just being able to use different controllers, being able to put your controllers outside of the view of the cameras and still have them track, which I really enjoy. Another con is that this does still require software, which honestly isn't much of a con because it's very easy to install. A couple clicks and you're there, and it doesn't really require you to do much. But I guess the addition of added software might be an annoyance to some people. I think the biggest con for this headset may be that it requires a battery to operate. So this headset does have a standalone chipset inside of it, the XR2, like I mentioned before, that you'll find in headsets like the Quest 2 and the Pico 4. But as of right now, this is not enabled. You cannot use it in standalone mode, but it will be coming according to Pimax, and there'll be a store and you'll be able to get apps just like the Quest 2. But as of right now, even if you're going to use this as a PCVR wired headset, it still requires the battery. This battery will run out even though it's plugged in. It takes a long time, but you do have to have a second battery ready to go, and then you can charge the other one by putting it into this little sleeve and plugging it into a USB cable. While this isn't the end of the world, having a wired headset, most people are just used to not having to switch out batteries. So I will list that as a con, and probably my biggest annoyance with this headset. So what does this headset cost? This headset will set you back about $1,600, which is pretty expensive, but you are getting one of the best looking pictures that you'll see in virtual reality. It's extremely clear. The name Crystal is really warranted. It's an absolutely beautiful display. The lenses are nice and big and clear, and they're very nice. I would absolutely recommend a headset like this if the battery thing doesn't annoy you and you have the money to spend on something like this. If you're a sim racer or you just want something that's really high end, you're not going to find a picture like this anywhere else at the time of the filming of this video. The controllers here will be very familiar if you've ever used the Quest 2. They're pretty much the same exact layout, except they do have an additional button on each controller. The thumbsticks feel good, the buttons feel good. There is a charging port on the bottom of each controller, so you do have to charge these with a USB-C cable. You can't just switch out the batteries and continue playing, which for some may be a con, but for some is also a pro, because if you're not spending 6 hours in a VR session, then just plugging these in every time that you are done playing VR and then having them be charged and never having to switch out batteries can be a great thing for people. Me personally, I do like being able to switch out batteries if I had a preference, just because I like longer play sessions. But these controllers ultimately do feel really good. They're tracked pretty decent. They recently had a tracking update that improved the quality of the tracking, and it is getting better and better all the time. I don't think that most people would have any kind of issue with the tracking here. My biggest issue would be that they're inside out. So when you take these away from the view of the cameras, that it's going to lose tracking. So should you buy a Pimax Crystal? Well, there's a few things to consider here. There's the inside-out tracking versus the base station tracking, which can be changed either way. So if you have a couple extra bucks, you can buy a base station faceplate for this, and then it'll work with your existing base stations if you have them, and you'll be able to use something like the index controllers. If you're an enthusiast and you want the best possible display and the clearest looking headset, then this is probably the headset for you. If that $1,600 price tag doesn't freak you out and you can afford that, then you are going to get the best picture clarity that you may have ever seen in virtual reality from this headset. If it were within my budget, this might be the one I would go for. Thanks so much for watching this review of the Pimax Crystal here on Between Realities, and we hope this helped you make the right purchase decision. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you on Friday on the Between Realities VR podcast. Bye-bye.